Today, we have such a great C-Suite Live. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are talking all about how to find your ideal client and charge what you are worth with the beautiful Gina DeVee, who is the founder of Divine Living, a multi-million-dollar lifestyle brand and women's empowerment company. She's a sought-after speaker, success coach with a master's degree in clinical psychology. She's also the author of The Audacity to Be Queen, which don't we all have the audacity to be queen, or should have the audacity to be queen? So without further ado, I would love to invite Gina on live with us. How are you, my friend?
Oh, Chelsea, it's so good to see you and really, really great to be here.
I am so happy to have you, and also a newer Florida native now, I should say. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you, thank you.
Welcome to the sunshine, and also welcome to the C-Suite, because I know you're such a wealth of information, you're such a wealth of inspiration, and this topic, right, how to find your ideal client and charge what you're worth, to me is always top of mind as a business owner, entrepreneur, someone looking for their side hustle, right? Building that business. 2020 was a rough year. So many of us had to take a pivot or transition in our business. So we could be even looking for a different type of client. But even if you're looking for the same client, do we all have a different mindset going into this year? So do we need to be prioritizing different needs, right? So to me, this topic is always one that I'm looking forward to discussing, and also discussing with you as a success coach and someone with a multi-million-dollar business. You're the perfect person to learn from today. So thank you again for being here, and I am ready to pick your brain and then some. And we are open. Again, the chat is open. So if you have any real-time questions for me or Gina, feel free to drop them in. So, Gina, finding your ideal client and charging what you're worth. I was thinking earlier in the day, what comes first? Do you have to know your price tag, know what your worth is to find your ideal client? Or is it find the ideal client, charge what you're worth? I was just curious about, what, is that an interesting order?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that when we get nervous or we're afraid and we think that we don't know who our ideal client is, and we see all these numbers flying around in the entrepreneurial space about, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, it's just this wide range of numbers, and everyone's wondering, well, where's my spot and where do I fit in, and who are my clients, and what can I charge? And then depending on what someone's money story is, then you can just throw in a whole bunch of chaos and craziness. But rest assured, I have been a hot mess in every single one of these areas, which is why I am so delighted and very honored to support my fellow entrepreneurs in making it simple. And I take a very often opposite approach of what you're going to hear out there a lot. Everyone's asking, where are all the ideal clients, or where are the high-end clients, and how much are they going to pay? And I really believe that when you function outside of yourself, you don't have your own power. You don't have your own sense of self. So I like to start from within, and for you to go and take a look at, first and foremost, who is it that you desire to serve? That's an inside job. That's connected to your heart. And when you get clear on that piece, then the price tag or price point for your product, your service, your program, whatever it is, must be a vibrational match. It must be an energetic frequency. It's just like a magnet on a fridge. If it doesn't have the right magnetism, it's not going to stick. And it's actually that simple. Go within your heart, find out who the ideal client is. We can talk more about some strategies for doing that. But to answer this question, I believe it starts with, who do you desire to serve? And then you will find the right price point for that person.
I love that, right? Because sometimes you feel that, when starting a business, it's the pressure of just monetizing and earning revenue and building that book of business, so much more so than who is it that I want to serve, or who is it that I'm most passionate about helping. So that magnet effect does happen. Those people start to find you as you want to find them just as badly. So let's talk strategies of, going about defining who our ideal client is. And I think, how do we remove that fear of, if I niche out too much, like just the stay-at-home mom, or just the engineer, or just the, someone looking to lose weight, right? Something very niche, then I'm going to miss out on all these other, potential clients. So what is the top strategy, or your top strategies for really niching it out and really defining who is the ideal client for me?
All right. So what I'm about to say is going to sound deceivingly simple. However, I have not built the company that I have and worked with thousands of women all over the world without this being super effective. So the mind might want to play a few tricks on you right now. So stay with us here. Very likely, and I've seen this basically 95+% of the time, your ideal client is you a half a step to 3 steps ago.
Mm,
It's that simple, that you're wanting to create your product, your service, your program, that you're like doing something because of something that was in your heart. And it might have been a desire, or it might have been overcoming a pain, or a combination of both. But you don't have to overcomplicate this, because when you really trust that everything in your life, it's not as disjointed as it looks. It's really a through line to you being exactly where you are right now. There are no mistakes about that. And so
mhm,
I think that oftentimes when people get involved with business, at least this is the way it was for me at the beginning, I was so worried about getting it right. My story was, I was broke. I was $75,000 in debt. I was a struggling psychotherapist. I didn't know how to charge my worth. And so I so desperately wanted to have a business and make money doing what I loved. And it seemed so far away from my reality. So I got scared that there was this one right way to do it. And when, first of all, there's not a right way to do business. There's two options in business. You can do a sprint or a marathon. And I believe we're
mm.
here for the marathon. You get involved with it, and you don't give up, and you figure it out along the way.
Love
And
that.
so when you just dial it in of why you're doing what you're doing, you represent millions and millions, if not tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people just like you, that want to overcome the same pain or go for the same desire. So don't overthink it.
Right. And how much do you feel that your clients are overthinking this process to the point where they're actually like the barrier to their success?
So much. I actually, in one of my programs, it happened to be the, get clear on your ideal client week this week. And I finally just decided to really own being the mentor that I am. And I said, everyone in this program, you have a choice that you can either put yourself in the game or out of the game. And here's it's going to come down to one decision. You're going to make the decision to not be in drama about who you're choosing your ideal client to be for now. You're not getting a tattoo and you're not getting married. You're going to look at your own life experience and look at who you were a half a step to 3 steps ago, whether that was a month ago or a year ago. And you're going to go be the person that you wish was in your life, or creating the product that you had when you were in that place. It's that simple.
So, and it really, it's so interesting how we're in our, second month of our weekly C-suite live stream here, Gina. And every week is another amazing topic, an amazing, credible expert, very successful business owner. And so much of the core of the how-to, or the takeaways, or the best practices that we talk about, we go back to the foundation. We go back to the basics and the essentials, that I think we get so wrapped up in all the things we need to do, or the filter of the Instagram post, right? Or the hashtag that we need to use, or the funnel that we need to create, that we like look 10 steps past the foundation and the basics and the essentials, and we need to reel it back 3 steps, 10 steps, right? So, and this is so essential of finding your ideal client. This is the core of your business. This is the core of how you monetize, is finding, right, the fish in the sea,
Yeah.
that you actually do want to service. And also I feel like, finding the ideal client is what leads to a fulfilling, prosperous, sustainable business versus the clients that make you want to rip your hair out. And we all have to have some of those, right?
Yes, yes. Well, yes, we are dealing with humans, so that's
Right.
going to happen from time to time. But when when you remember that business isn't, in my opinion, about strategy. It's not about the latest app. It's not about, as you're talking about, the coolest hashtag and whatever the timely thing of the moment is. Business is about relationship. And when you have a genuine passion to help one person who represents more clients or customers than you could possibly ever handle, it's okay to focus on that one person and build that relationship in your marketing and social media and otherwise. But keeping it simple, because everyone right now is craving connection, is craving intimacy. Nobody needs another expert talking above them or over them or 10 steps ahead of them. We all need to be met where we're at. And when you remember that Joseph Campbell said, what's most personal is what's most universal. So when you go and you look within and say, who is it that you want to help based on where you came from in life? End of story. You got a big business and millions of people to serve.
And you said the ideal word, it's relationships, right? Business are about building relationships. And that brings us to the topic of networking and how effective and essential networking is to growing a thriving business. So in finding our ideal clients today, how can we look at it from the lens of networking, relationship building out our community versus really putting on our sales hat and trying to sell to someone? What are your best strategies for networking in today's digital, virtual age that we're all living in still in 2021 right now?
Stop looking at the numbers. Just stop. Because I've gotten caught up in it too. It's like, oh, where are the biggest podcasts and who are the biggest influencers and who can I connect with? And it's fruitless, actually, when you're not matched with people that you and I, we've got this chemistry, we've got this synergy. Like we could talk for hours and hours, and our people love when we're together. And so it was interesting. I was looking at doing some podcast pitching recently, and I was like, oh, so and so is big, and so, and I went and I listened to some of their podcasts, and there's nothing wrong with them. There was also just nothing I was personally attracted to. And then I thought of so many people that had much smaller audiences where there's that spark. And so I don't know. I'm back to I'm not into strategy. I'm into relationship. I'm into connection. When you're dealing with humans, you get to be pretty high touch and you can be pretty low tech actually and create multi-million-dollar businesses. So it's not about lack and it's not about playing small. It's just about keeping it simple.
I agree, and I think anytime we try to get too complex is when too many elements are in the equation. It starts to fizzle out versus become more effective or impactful. And a lot of my clients are always talking about utilizing social media just to find their ideal client, to build a community of like-minded individuals. And to me, social media is all about your content creation, your captions, your storytelling efforts, but really building relationships with your community to the point where that they want to work with you organically, not because you're telling them to or selling it to them, because they trust you, they admire you, they honor your thought leadership, and you are the person that they are going to seek out for X, Y, or Z. So Gina, I would imagine that so much of your coaching also helps people on social media and in their content marketing efforts, creating for finding your leads, right? Yeah. So there has to be kind of a hybrid, right, of this lifestyle, personal storytelling element versus the more salesy kind of content, meaning promoting my services, sharing what results I create. What's your ratio for when you're talking through your social channels, educating, empowering versus promoting with more of the sales hat? Where do you fall?
Sure. So back up the bus just a little bit in case anyone's wondering. They're like, all right, well, I'm looking at where I was a half a step or 3 steps ago, and I was um, getting divorced, and I was in a job that I didn't like, and I was a new mom. Like, they're like, well, what do I pick? So, and this will really be effective on social as well. So I have found in my studying over the past probably 20 years, people fall into one of three categories, and I call them schools. You're either in the school of love, the school of money, or the school of health. And so if you're just like a hot mess express in like a whole bunch of areas of your life, like we've all been there, and don't you worry. But in terms of finding your ideal client, pick one school. What's the primary school that you want to help someone with?
Mm,
And because people will pay to get out of their pain. So if you're worried about like, but wait, and what are people going to buy? And what I talk about on social, people are in pain on love, money, or health.
mm,
Guaranteed income making money right there. So pick one of those categories. And love can be self love. It doesn't have to be romantic love, whatever. Like you'll find the way, but pick love, money, or health. And then when you're on social with the ratios, you're going to see that I'm a big believer in the promotionless promotion. And so when you're on social, and let's just pick, I don't know, we'll do money since we're talking about charging your worth and finding clients, right? It's the promotionless promotion is for me might be, wow, totally enjoying Saturday with my husband at the beach. I remember so many Saturdays when it used to be work, work, work. And now because I've learned how to charge my worth, I don't have to work 7 days a week anymore. So I'm not giving a link I'm not like saying buy my stuff right here, but you
right.
can see that when you've picked one category to hone your content on, then you're still promoting because everyone's still wondering like, well, but what programs does she have that's going to help me not work on a Saturday? So,
Exactly.
I would say, depending if I'm in a launch or something, I probably do 75% content and 25% promotion, probably somewhere in that realm.
I think that's so great. And what a great contextual like reference of kind of showing and telling in a
Mhm.
promotion strategy, right? Showing the life that you've created, being able to use Saturday to spend the time with your husband on the beach
Mhm.
versus the Saturday working, grinding, right? And kind of like with the subliminal of like, of course, this is what I could help you do too,
Yeah.
right? But it's not like let me help you get your weekend back,
Mhm.
in your messaging. And it's again, and it's a little bit more in the storytelling, like showing and
Yeah.
telling the solution or the outcome. Actually, more
Mhm.
focusing on the outcome that your target client is looking to achieve, right?
Mhm.
Or
Mhm.
what they desire. And I really practice that as well, Gina. A lot of people are always asking, what are the best advertising and marketing strategies? I've been in, Chelsea Productions has been running for 15 years now, and I don't spend any money on advertising or marketing. I don't do any paid posts or paid media or Google click PPC campaigns. I am all about the authentic relationship building and networking, and I call it my signature traffic builders, right? Blog, podcast, live stream, Twitter chat, where you're constantly engaging your community and giving them advice, sharing your thought leadership. And when people hear that, oh, she's covering how to build a content calendar in 30 days, how to find your ideal client and charge what you're worth, you're more likely to get on their radar to be the person they hire to help them do that, right?
Mhm.
Versus coming from that constant like billboard messaging. I always say, like, don't be a billboard when trying to find your ideal client today. I
Mhm.
think there's nothing less attractive than getting those spammy DMs of people trying to sell their services or sell their
Mhm.
products.
It's
No,
not a
no, no.
relationship. You're not in a relationship. Nobody walks up to anyone and says, "Hi, do you want to get married tonight?" after meeting them for the first time. So,
No.
that's the same thing with business. And, and when you're being genuine about it, it can actually happen really quickly. When you're like, for us, it's Monday night chicken night. My husband does a rotisserie chicken every Monday night. And so it's like people like will like show up on Instagram just to see the chicken night. And, we're not overtly selling anything. And yet obviously we're selling lifestyle and we're selling time together. And for all the other foodies out there that like, it's part of our like know and trust factor. So, and it's not difficult. It's just natural and authentic.
Coming from a place of relationships, community building, narrowing in on who it is you actually want to serve, not trying to be the jack of all trades and appeal to everybody. These are such foundational ways to really, narrow in on finding that ideal client. I also think speaking their language, right? If you're speaking above them or around them, they could feel like she's not talking to me, she's talking to that person, right? And really, even sometimes, simplifying it, bringing it down. I think sometimes we get a little too complex in what we have to offer and how we do it and what, it's really make it simple so that people can simply understand how you can help them be the solution. Would you say?
Yes, yes. And the other thing I would encourage people, so many people are just obsessed with being liked and approved of and accepted. And I get it. As a recovering codependent, I used to be that person too. Don't be afraid to challenge your audience, because something that, I hear people come to me all the time of like, but wait, I'm too afraid to narrow, like what we were talking about before. And like, but I want to help all these people. And, when you break it down, particularly, let's say if you're in a service-based business, you couldn't even handle 10 new clients. Not 10. I mean, like nobody even wants 10 private clients. Like it's
Totally.
10 people. Like you couldn't even handle that many new ones at a time. Or if you're teaching a class, depending on like what level your business is at, like you don't even want hundreds of people at the beginning stages because you've got kinks to work out. So oftentimes I will challenge my clients and say, how many clients do you actually need right now to make a really big difference in your finances, in your bank account, self-esteem, your mission for why you're doing it? And usually it's like somewhere like 20 or less. It's like you don't actually need a lot of clients. I crossed the 7-figure mark with 12 clients.
Amazing. Amazing.
12 clients. I mean, granted, at that point I was selling $100,000 packages and we can get there. But the point is, when you go and do the math and break it down and get out of like that snow globe piece in your head, you don't need like 14% of the global market share to live your calling and make a lot of money doing what you love. So that narrowing it down is really key.
Oh, that's so amazing, because it's again quality over quantity, right? And really like giving 20 people your everything versus 50 people, like a fraction of you, especially in the service-based industry for coaches and consultants. I know as a coach, I only take on a certain amount of clients per quarter. It's not the only way I monetize, it's not the only way I monetize my business. And I like to give you 110% of me if you are hiring and investing me in your as your coach. So you already like wet everyone's palate, right? When I cross a 7-figure, mark, when I'm creating $100,000 packages, this might not seem, so untangible to many.
It did to me at the beginning too.
Can you take us through, I want to hear the journey of getting there, the story of how you got there, because like paint the picture of how someone creates a business and arrives at the 6-figure package, right? Share.
It happened quickly. So I was a broke, struggling psychotherapist in the suburbs of Detroit. I was 30 years old, living at home with my parents. So finally I was over that. I scrounged together some quarters, moved to LA. Why? Because everybody there is beautiful and successful. So I thought. Anywho, I was no longer going to be a struggling psychotherapist who was neurotically broke all the time, living off of $24,000 a year, $75,000 in debt. I now was a life coach, which meant I got to charge in packages, which meant I got to be neurotically broke, because any given day I like made up some $6,000 package, basically because that's like what my bills were or something. And so like any day someone could buy it, and but it sounds sexy, but I sold like one every 4 to 6 months at the beginning. Anywho, the point is, I heard at those beginning years that anyone could become a millionaire in 3 years, and I was like, "Well, sister, well,
That sounds fun.
I'm the
Yeah.
perfect person to find that out on." So, you know, look at the very beginning, I was like begging people to do $25 sessions with me. You know, I was not hard work. I was willing to do what it took, and then 25 led to 100, which led to 125. And then when I realized I was doing these single sessions and everybody was signing up each week and they were like paying each week. And I thought, well, if I just charged them for 4 sessions, like by the month, that was a $500 package. And so that's how I started to raise what I call my financial vibration. And then
Mm.
I remember seeing people in the industry and they were charging $10,000 a day for these VIP days. And I was like, that's amazing. I want to do that. But remember what I talked about? I said, my strategy has always been to go within first. And so, and I'm a spiritual person. So I kind of like, I prayed and I asked and I said, well, what's my number for a 1 day intensive? And I heard $1,000. And I had more education, and in my opinion, I was better at what I did than these other people charging the 10 grand, but I was humble. I did not let my ego get in the way. And I said yes and thank you. Because there's talent, and then there's also wealth consciousness and financial frequency. So my talent was always sky high. So if anyone
Mhm.
listening is like, I'm so good at what I do, why am I broke? I get you, sister or brother. I had to raise my financial frequency. I had to raise my self-esteem and that. So, anyways, the way that you do that is by charging where you're at. I was at that
Mm.
$1,000 frequency for the day. As soon as I sold that first package, which I did because it was a vibrational match, then I raised it to 1,500 for the day. Then I raised it to 3,000. So you can raise your rates actually pretty quickly. And then I was selling $3,000 packages and then 5,000, then 10,000. And you start to realize, like, I remember the first person I heard that was selling $100,000 package. I was like, who is stupid enough to buy that? And if you did have $100,000, why would you need a coach? That was my
Right.
thinking at the time. And then but what I did was I put myself in the room. I got myself, you know, proximity is power. And I put
Mhm.
myself close to these people and I was like, what is going on? And then I realized, Chelsea, they weren't that different than me. They just had the audacity and they were doing good things in the world. They weren't ripping people
Right.
off, but like people would invest at that level and they'd make even more. So what's wrong with that? So
Mhm.
that's how the progression happened. And true enough, within 3.5 years, I went from $24,000 a year to 1.2 million with those 12 clients.
Amazing. And you know what? People might be saying, and I'm also curious too, because I think a lot of people look to quantify their worth in what they're actually offering, right?
Mhm.
Especially, I think, even more for the service-based client, right? Because if you have a product, right, if you're selling this comb, it's going to have a hard cost, right? But when
Mhm.
you're selling yourself, as the consultant, as the coach, as the therapist, it's how much time you're showing up for them, deliverables, right? Downloadables, tangible things that they're using to, actually get to the end goal. So, how do you kind of quantify your worth when it comes to packages? Is it so much based on time versus deliverables versus the package of choice? Like, talk to us about more of the, charging what you're worth piece and how to define your price tag, right, for what you're giving.
None of those elements are what's involved. That shocked me when I learned this. So, I actually learned this when I was a psychotherapist. I'm going to make some generalizations here. When I was a psychotherapist, sort of the going rate for a master's level, which is where I was at, was $100 an hour.
Mm.
And only if you had the PhD were you charging 125 or 150. There was sort of like this unspoken rule. Okay. Well, I was doing a lot of marriage coaching at the time. And because I was like this bleeding heart do gooder, people would come in and they'd be like, well, we don't have a lot of money for marriage coaching. I'd be like, it's okay. I'll offer a sliding scale rate. You don't have to pay the $100. I'll do it for 50. And after a few sessions, not that the coaching or counseling wasn't working, they didn't have enough time to, deal with all their stuff. And they would throw in the towel, head on over to their divorce attorney who had no problem saying that the base minimum retainer was $5,000 or $10,000 per person. And every single time my clients paid that.
Hate it.
And I realized, again, I'm making a generalization, but that the field of law valued their services more than the field of psychology. And relatively speaking, we have the same amount of education. We're spending the same amount of time with people. And that's Chelsea, when I realized it's a decision. And I
Mm.
did something that felt a little politically incorrect for my industry at the time, but I raised my rate to the quote unquote PhD level. I was only a master. It wasn't a law between the temples. And so I am a big believer. I'm not telling everyone go put together a $100,000 package if you're brand new or whatever. Like, I did work into it. However,
Mhm.
the decision of what your services are of value is your decision. Think about it. There's amazing musicians, and some are playing in dive bars, never getting a record deal. And there's not that good. Like, we have to keep flipping through the radio to find decent music, and those are the ones that got the
So
record deal,
true.
right? You
So
know,
true.
there's a super talented graphic artist out there that puts together gorgeous websites for, a couple of $1,000s, or you can pay a fancy agency that might not even be as good, $50 to $100,000. So it's like, when you get this game, so to speak, it's not about the outside. Back to, you've got to go within, and what do you feel right about charging? And here's the next tip I will give you: don't expect your future clients or your quote unquote ideal clients or your audience or anyone else to value you or your services or your product more than you're willing to.
Mm. Mm.
Because I kept kind of waiting to be like entrepreneurial, like rescued, so to speak, that like, I thought, well, if I was just really good, that people would like want to pay these higher rates. And I wanted them to value me. And it had to start with me saying, no, this is my rate. I value my time and these services at this level. And for those that did as well, then it was the vibrational match.
And I so appreciate your honesty in that, because there is a lot. I think there's a lot of distortion out there of,
Oh,
like, you hear the $10,000 day, right? Especially for people who are just starting, and it seems like the dream, and it is. What a great day!
mhm,
That's a phenomenal day. That's some people's phenomenal month, let alone day.
mhm.
But that doesn't mean that people are making it all the time. And I also want to say, I've been doing coaching and consulting and hosting, right, which is where I kind of started my business, for 15 years, but I still get pushback on my prices all the time. And I
Mm,
think it's because everybody wants to get the best deal. One, we know that, right? There's a lot of competition out there. And you might be going, why are people always questioning my value, always questioning my worth? And for someone who has been on almost every media affiliate, been in every, publication, top performing LinkedIn courses, I still get checked for
mhm,
validation, all that. Can I see some resources? What are your testimonials? Blah, blah, blah,
mhm.
blah, blah, blah.
What
It's
guarantee do you
okay.
have?
Exactly. Exactly. What does it mean? How much money am I going to make in 3 months? How many followers am I going to? It's like, these questions are crazy. First of all, if I had a magic ball, I'd love to give you these answers, but I don't, and nobody does. And it also shouldn't sway you from second guessing your worth.
Yeah.
And I am the first person to say, sometimes that does happen to me, because I do really like to think that I'm a more humble person and realize that not that $10,000 could be a lot to somebody, right? Especially when
Mhm.
they're in transition, when they're starting a new business, when this is their side hustle, not their full time. But if you're going to show up for that person, if you're going to give them your all, if you know that you're going to give them your best, meeting them at that vibrational frequency could be the reason why it clicks more than the reason why you kind of deter them from working from you. So it's kind of much as like a self check as it is with the conversation with your ideal client. That's a lot that I'm getting from you as well.
Mhm. Look at in every conversation, someone is always selling or being sold. And there's so much fear out there, especially around money. And so when someone
Yeah.
comes to you with all their fear about their really big money story, and they're like selling, they can be very convincing about why they don't have the money or can't come up with the money, or why you shouldn't be charging that much or should help them anyways, and they'll pay you later, and all the messy stuff that goes on with it. And so with that, what I look to do is see it for what it is. someone else's wound. And, I really do believe that as entrepreneurs and mentors, we're healers of certain sorts also. So what I look to do is get bigger than the wound.
Mm,
And, I don't make, at this point, I don't like doubt myself or wonder if I should be doing it. And I also don't just necessarily write them off and be like, well, you're not an ideal client. But when you come from this place of compassion without being sold, and you get
mm-hmm,
bigger than the wound, then you can start to first assess, is this the right match? And
mm-hmm,
it's the right match regardless of money, right? Like, I mean, somebody could, like, if someone's going to offer you something for free, you're not necessarily going to take, like, someone to offer me like a McDonald's. I'm not going to eat McDonald's even if it was paid, let alone if it was free.
right.
Um,
Mm-hmm,
and so when you take the money out of the equation, and that's what I do with these clients, to find out if they are ideal, prospects to find out if they're ideal or not. And it's like, let's take the money of the program off the plate here. Like, am I the right mentor for you? Are you the right client for me? Is this the right program or container for whatever it is that we want to work on? Then sometimes we'll just find out that it's a no. So the money is even irrelevant. And then if we find out it's a yes, and it's about coming up with the money, then we start to make smart choices about all of the different avenues about how the money can come in. But it's really, it's the service or the product first. The money, again, is irrelevant.
oof, so good, so good. And so with that being said, we're coming to the end of our live stream with you, and of course, there's so much more on all things Gina that that you can connect with her on social media. Her podcast, Divine Living Podcast. But in 60 seconds, in this quick tip, Gina, if everybody just did more of this, they would be that magnet for their ideal client that much more, or
Mhm.
stop getting in the way of their own success. In 60 seconds, that quick tip that if everyone just did this more or didn't do this anymore, what would that be?
Stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about being of service. Because I find that when we're afraid, we are self-obsessed. We're just thinking about, like, how can I make the money? How can I get the client? And then you feel bad about yourself, and then you think you're not going to do anything at all. And when you understand that if you all you think about is who can I serve today and in what way, you will by definition be a double blessing, meaning you're going to be a blessing in someone's life and you're going to be blessed as well. And money will be like a breathing in and a breathing out. So just simplify it and think, who can you go be of service to today? Take action on that, and you will see your business blossom in the ways that you desire.
Boom. That was so great. And thank you so much. And I hope that this was so helpful for those of you listening live, those of you listening to our recording. Gina, where can people stay in touch with you, follow you, learn from you, all of the above?
Sure. Well, come on over to divineliving.com, and you'll meet the world of divine living there, books, podcasts, all the things. And then you can also follow me on Instagram at Gina DeVee, or subscribe to my podcast, Divine Living, on iTunes and elsewhere.
Thank you so much.
It was
Anything
so
fun
fun,
or
Chelsea.
exciting you're rolling out soon that we can be, excited of? Or I know you always have like a great wait list for something.
Yeah.
So what's kind of coming up?
What's coming up? I want to give your people a free gift. Talk about being a double blessing. So my book is called The Audacity to Be Queen. You can find that on my website. But I have a really cool companion course. So if you go to divineliving.com/audacity, there's free workbooks and videos, and there's a fun Facebook group to get involved with. So I think that we could all use a lot more power in our lives. So you can get some positive programming there.
And when you say companion course, does that mean for your professional companion, personal companion?
It's a companion
Different.
course for my book. You don't have to buy the book, but I want you
Mm-hmm.
to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a free companion course to the book.
Thank you so much for the free resource. I can talk to you all day long about 100 things. So looking forward to our podcast coming out too, on Divine Living Podcast. And thank you so much for being here, everybody. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next week on the C-Suite with another fabulous topic and another fabulous guest. And have a great end of your day, everybody.
Thanks for having me, Chelsea.
Bye-bye.